and welcome to the Culture Cast. I'm Cristachio, and I'm joined by three men who, if we went down the river together, it wouldn't end like this film, so that's the only thing that matters. I'm joined by my good friend, the director of the Mothman Prophecies, director, writer, star, and everything of the Mothman himself, Mr. Richard Hatem.
Howdy there, Chris.
Howdy. I'm also joined by...
I don't know why I said that. It has nothing to do with the movie. Nobody says howdy in the movie.
No. You should have started squealing.
You know what? I'm done with that joke, man. Squeal like a pig. You got a pretty mouth.
Yeah.
I heard the jokes 5,000 times, and then today I saw the movie.
I heard all the jokes in the 70s. There you go. Also joining me is Mr. Cullen Gallager of PulpSerenade.com. There it is.
Okay, come on. That's
multi-talented recording artist and film critic and noir historian, Cullen Gallager.
He's been waiting so long for that moment.
I know.
And it arrived, and I got to tell you, it paid off.
You nailed it.
Sweet. My job here is done. I can go to bed.
Are you leaving the podcast? I played the bit, now I'm out. And
I'll stick around.
Also returning for his second Culture Cast, all the way from Houston, Texas, Josh Stewart.
Well, how the hell do I follow that?
Well, you could try, but it's Cullen is a hard act to follow. Let's just put it that way.
I was impressed. I almost forgot to speak.
Well, see, there you go. So, as you might have guessed on this episode of the Culture Cast, we are going to be talking about a film that is once again starring Mr. Burt Reynolds, though a certain someone among the four of us is going to have some things to say about that. That person being me. How do I know that? Well, because I'm me. We're going to be talking about Deliverance.
Where are you going, city boy? We'll find it.
It ain't nothing but the biggest river in the state. These are the men. Nothing very unusual about them. Suburban guys like you or your neighbor. Nothing very unusual about them until they decided to spend one weekend canoeing down the Cohulawasi River. Ed Gentry, he runs an art service. Wife Martha has a boy, Dean. Lewis Medlock has real estate interests, talks about resettling in New Zealand or Uruguay. Drew Gallager, he's sales supervisor for a soft drink company. Bobby Tripp, bachelor, insurance and mutual funds.
Where you going? All right, I'm looking.
These are the men who decided not to play golf that weekend. Instead, they sought the river.
Would you like to check it out?
Out there anywhere, watching us right now. We ain't gonna be so hard to follow, dragging a corpse.
Louis, I'm gonna pull off to the side. There's something wrong.
No, go on! Wow, what is it? Oh, stop it!
Go ahead, I'm gonna pull in.
No!
John Boorman's film of James Dickey's explosive best-selling novel.
A film that has more jokes made about it, like Richard mentioned, than a lot of other films. And it's the film that, I guess, made up the phrase, "You got a pretty mouth." which is just like now a vernacular thing you say to someone to creep them out, I guess.
Oh, you mean it's a bad thing? Because people have been, oh shit.
Richard, it's not a positive. I know, right? You got a pretty mouth, sir. We're going to have to ask you to leave now. But yeah, we're going to be talking about Deliverance. So before we get into it, like before, I'm going to turn the floor over to Richard and Cullen. If you guys want to give the listeners and Josh and I a little bit of an idea as to why y'all picked Deliverance, though I'm sure the explanation this time around is not very hard to figure out.
I will turn the floor over to Cullen.
Well, it's the movie that sort of propelled Burt Reynolds from being a TV star to being a movie star.
Right.
It's a very iconic movie of the 1970s. It's one of Reynolds's most, standout dramatic performances, and it's got a hell of a great cast. Made Ned Beatty a star, Ronnie Cox, Jon Voight, Dickey himself, the author.
I would contend making Jon Voight a star may have been a mistake in the long run, but what do I know? Yikes. What about you, Richard? Why is this on the required viewing list for Burt Reynolds?
Well, it's interesting. I will admit once again, I have never seen this movie until today. I was aware of it. I just never, it was one of those, kind of not blind spot, but, notable absences in my film knowledge. And there's many others, but I'd never seen it or heard all the jokes, knew what it was about, right. Was aware of the book and the author and all the rest. So that having been said, I also knew that Burt Reynolds was in it. Only upon seeing it did I understand that this is a very, very interesting movie that Burt Reynolds is in. I don't know that I would call it a Burt Reynolds movie. He's in it. There's an ensemble. Ronnie Cox is in it, has a lot to do. Jon Voight is in it, has a lot to do. Ned Beatty is famous for. So there's a lot going on in this movie, and Burt Reynolds is a part of it. The fact that he's in it, yes. I'm not sure I would then say, oh, well, this is a Burt Reynolds movie.
I will have more to say about that, but I'm going to turn the floor over to Josh, because Josh, when you and I were speaking a couple months ago, I think it was like fucking March or February maybe, I sent you the kind of list of what we were doing, and you said Deliverance, and you kind of locked it down for everybody else. Nobody else could talk about Deliverance. So why, Josh, did you want to join us to talk about Deliverance?
It's a movie that I didn't see until probably about 5 or 6 years ago, and I was amazed that you'll go back to a lot of so-called classic movies from the 70s and before or after, and they don't pack the wallop that they did when they came out. But Deliverance, even now, I feel is still just a harrowing experience through and through, and it so completely transcends the pretty tasteless humor that's grown around it. There's just and it may just have to do with the fact that everyone did their own stunts and they all probably could have really died, because this is a movie where you feel like at any point something could truly go wrong and they could have, not been able to finish the film. And I'm always impressed by movies that go that far.
I would agree. I definitely had that feeling. I mean, it is in terms of the filmmaking and the sustained feeling of dread and anxiety and tension. I mean, it's weird having heard so much about it. Like, okay, we'll just jump right in. The scene, the famous scene, the sexual assault on Ned Beatty.
Male on male rape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't really know. I guess I just sort of assumed it happened late in the film. I don't know why. It does not. It happens, I would say, just before the halfway point, somewhere in that area. And then there's a lot of really harrowing stuff that happens after that, involving survival, murder, sort of, how you're going to square your actions with society and your God. So yeah, pretty much all the way through, it's a nail biter. You're like, what's going to happen? What will be the outcome of these events? And it is one of those movies that you can't watch without thinking, okay, well, what would I do? And what could I do? Which is great. So as a piece of filmmaking, absolutely holds up. Absolutely.
So, like yourself, Richard, I had never seen it before. Again, yeah, we've heard all the fucking jokes. Oh, squeal like a pig, whatever, fine. I mean, look, I get it. I get why it's funny. I get why it's funny to make fun of it. I mean, I think it's about the lowest of low-hanging goddamn fruit, which is why it's like, oh, squeal like a pig, Richard, hee hee hee. Like, yeah, let's get our jollies out of the way ahead of time. Because like you said, Richard, if you've never seen this film before, this is like what the first 30 minutes of a almost 1.5 hour, 1 hour, 45-minute film. First half hour is when the whole Ned Beatty scene happens, because it's essentially the entire driving force for what happens through the rest of the movie. It's kind of the spark that lights the match of everything else that happens. I will agree with you, Richard, that I think that this is a movie that features Burt Reynolds, not a Burt Reynolds film. Doesn't take away from Burt Reynolds' performance. I think Burt Reynolds is fantastic in the film. I just wanted more Burt Reynolds, which, I mean, again, maybe that's not a bad thing. I mean, you could make the case that, wanting more at the end is better than having too much. But that being said, I walked away from Deliverance feeling the same way I felt when I walked away from The Revenant, the DiCaprio, Tom Hardy film. I was technically impressed by everything that they had put on screen. I think it's a technically impressive film. Like you mentioned, Josh, you have actors doing stunts and just doing things in general. I mean, Jon Voight actually climbed that cliff face, which is like a fucking nightmare, I would think.
That's crazy.
Like what?
That's crazy.
John Boorman, I mean, hey, kudos to you for just saying, go fucking do it. But I think it's a technically impressive film. I just feel like it falls apart towards the second half. It just kind of starts to not go in circles, but it's like, where does this end up? And when it gets to the end, it's like, okay, yeah. They all came to the same conclusion and said, we're not going to tell anybody. The end.
But that's not the end. The ending is that the characters, like you see Jon Voight waking up in sweats at the very end. That it's still every day for the rest of that guy's life. He is going to be fucking scared. He's going to be so nervous.
He's going to be so nervous. So, but okay. So my question is, I got a couple.
You and me both.
Do you want to? I had a funny story I was going to say, because Chris, you didn't ask me when I first saw this movie.
Sure. When did you first see this film?
I remember exactly when I first saw it. I was 9 years old. We had just moved from Georgia to Maine. My mom and I had gone grocery shopping, and we had just left McDonald's. And the radio announcer made a reference to Deliverance, and she asked me, "Have I seen Deliverance?" And I said no. So she turned around and went to the video store.
Wait. She went to the video store. For some reason, I pictured you going to a theater. Of course not. You're not.
Yeah. No, so then she turned around and rented Deliverance for me. And
what Cullen didn't mention, Richard, is his mom drove a DeLorean, turned around, went 88, and they went to the movie theater. That's the part that Cullen's leaving out.
I wish.
Oh no, it was 72. For a second I was thinking it was 75, and I'm like, oh, I was 9 in 75, but no, I was not. Wow. So your mom thought at 9 years old, Deliverance is the movie you should see.
Yeah.
And what do you think?
That's pretty cool.
I loved it. I thought it was great.
Okay. So now I have not read the book. I have not read what I am sure are stacks and stacks of essays and critical analyses of the movie. The sort of the big plot of the movie, the sort of background against which the movie is set, is that this valley is going to be flooded to build a dam to provide energy for Greater Atlanta.
Right.
Okay. So right away we understand. Okay, so this is modern culture taking yet another bite out of the natural world,
encroaching on it.
Encroaching, and they even use. I mean, it's funny, but within the first 45 seconds of the movie, they use the term rape. We're raping the land. It's going to be rape, but they're laughing about it. Okay, yeah, they're laughing about that, those feelings. Like the feelings get stated, but then they are laughed about, because I guess that's also a comment on how men react to things and uncomfortable feelings, which I think is why the jokes get made. Not a lot of jokes about The Accused with Jodie Foster, which has probably one of the most realistic and disturbing rape scenes I've ever seen. Certainly more disturbing than this. But for men to see this and then talk about it on any level, it has to be Whoa, squeal like a pig. You got
Yeah.
a pretty mouth. Ha 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 ha. Okay, which again, okay, uncomfortable things. You laugh at them. My question is, what are we saying about these mountain men? What are we saying? Is that
For me it was like that.
This is what they do. They just, these are guys who rape people.
The way I interpret it, let's go around the table here, because I think this is a very interesting question, Richard, because you really have cut to what did we all take away from this movie in a way. The way I looked at it is it's like the age-old adage, when you fuck with nature, it fucks with you back, except less nature in the holistic natural sense, but more in the setting of the environment that they're in. So I mean, look, how does the movie open? Like you mentioned, Richard, you have these 4 city assholes, right? I mean, look, they're businessmen. 4 city assholes show up into a town and go, hey, look at all the dumb fucking yokels. Yuck, yuck, yuck. You fucking dummies. You guys don't know shit. We're going to take your land from you. You guys are going to get fucked off back to whatever creosote hole you crawled out of. And then look what happens. Within the first 45 minutes of the film, you realize that the moment you step out of your comfort zone and you start embarking into a place that you are uncomfortable with, you have lost all sense of what your reality is, because your reality doesn't matter anymore. That's what this movie's about. It's about how our realities can change based on the environment that we're in. I mean, these guys are not going and murdering people in Atlanta. They mention as much, like, well, if we were in the law, they would, throw us in jail. And it's like, but this isn't that. So, I mean, that's what Burt Reynolds' character is essentially addressing, the fact that, you have these 3 guys who think they know what they're doing and they have no fucking idea.
I'm going to say something that I'm sure has been said a billion times, but I think it's probably the only real way to understand what this movie's about. I don't know when the book was written. I'm going to describe this entire movie with one word. Are you ready for the word? Vietnam.
Yeah.
I was definitely thinking about Vietnam. And the book was 1970, so it was right in the swing of it.
So why Vietnam, Josh?
I mean, it's just metaphorically, it's just the idea of, city slickers in this case, could represent America, right, going to a land that they have no business being, and the land saying, fuck you, and ejecting them as viciously as possible.
Yeah. Which is why, Richard, which is why I was saying, Richard, it's not environment as in nature, but more like the actual setting of where this is taking place, Vietnam or the backwoods of Georgia.
Right. And the metaphor is powerful, yet at the same time, but and look at what Cullen said at the end. I mean, at the end, it's basically, it ends on a note of PTSD.
Right.
I went out, I had an experience. I can't really talk about it. We can never talk about it. We can never talk about what really happened there. No one would ever understand it, but it's going to haunt me the rest of my life.
Yeah. What did you take away, Cullen? Where do you come down?
I mean, there's a lot to unpack in this movie. I don't even know where to start. I mean, since we're talking about Burt Reynolds, I'll kind of start with his character. What I think is interesting is he sort of is philosophizing about manliness and masculinity and man versus nature. He comes off as the super macho guy who sort of understands like philosophically about violence, and pretty quickly he's just like undone. He's, they go down the river, kind of hurts his leg, and he's sort of out of commission. And I think that's a really interesting twist to do in the movie, because he doesn't get to act this role that he wanted to play,
that he's been preparing literally like his entire life for, is what it feels like, right?
Look, he gets off a very important shot. I mean,
it's true.
Yeah.
Like, look, if you approach this textually, if I was in high school and I had to write a paper about this, it's Jon Voight's movie.
Yeah. Right.
He's
I
the
think
character
so.
who goes on the journey, and we track his journey and we end with him.
Yeah. And having read the book is written in first person from his perspective.
Okay.
So that very much makes it like, that's almost, I can safely say that the content of the book and the movie are pretty much one-to-one, but the major difference, besides it has a longer epilogue, is that you get so much more internal monologue from the Ed Gentry character and what he's thinking the whole time. And the two major differences are that he thinks about his job a lot, where he's a graphic designer, and he's more worried about that than he thinks about his own wife. And as tensions get worse, he gets really bloodthirsty. He gets excited about hunting down this other guy, and in the book actually describes the kind of thrill he's feeling when he's in the rapids, at the most dangerous part. In the movie, nobody's having any fun at that point, but in his head, that's apparently what the character was going through in the book, which just puts a wildly different spin on it to me.
Oh, yeah, it's fascinating.
Shit. I mean, that changes how I perceive. I mean, it doesn't change how I perceive the movie, but it changes how I could perceive the movie.
Yeah, and since it was essentially written by the author, I know they said they'd made some changes, but more or less what he wrote in the book made it to the screen. They just altered things here and there to fit a little bit more of a cinematic narrative. And on his journey, it would be the same journey. It's just that in the middle, he would, as he is, taking his revenge or fantasizing about it, even giving into that the bloodlust and what is exciting about that, which would then even, I think, redouble his later shame and trauma. And I think for whatever reason, they decided, no, let's just make it about survival. Let's never make it that he's like, oh, good, I can't wait to do this,
I sort of like that Jon Voight is not primed to do everything in this movie the way the Reynolds characters. He's more reluctant for violence. He can't even shoot the deer with the arrow when he's climbing the mountain at the end. He really does seem like, I don't think I can make myself do this. I don't think I'm going to be able to do what's necessary. And I think that, at least for me, that makes it a little bit more like I can put myself in his character.
Right. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. I mean, I think probably, Josh, the reason they may have done that is because if they did it the way it was in the book, you may not be able to sympathize with the character of Ed Gentry, right?
That relatability completely changes. And and the other thing, the other major difference is that there's, besides the obvious content of the film, there's a lot more homoeroticism latent in that character. He's very particularly impressed by the character of Lewis, the Burt Reynolds character. In the book, he talks a lot about just what a physical specimen he is and stuff, which is, that's how he ended up with Burt Reynolds in the role, because Burt Reynolds became the man for the next decade or so.
It's true.
But that's a major difference too, is that you have that homosexual assault happening, but at the same time you have personal feelings from one of the characters that are that could very easily be read the same way, but from a more affectionate light. And I thought that was really, really different.
It's interesting that they left that out. I mean, I know they left it out because they probably left both of those parts out, because I'm assuming, was that all interior dialogue?
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
And the major bulk of the third quarter of the book is just him thinking and stalking that one guy. So it would not have worked at all if they hadn't just trimmed it to the basic hunt in the movie. It does drag a little bit because it is entirely internal monologue for a portion.
I think I kind of picked up on what Cullen said about its spareness, because it's very much about, I mean, again, if we're going to kind of get into the way men respond to violence of other men, by the way, I mean, that's one of the most complicated things about our society right now, is that there's a big conversation about predatory men and the women who have to deal with them.
And toxic masculinity.
Toxic masculinity. But what we don't really talk about is the group of men that feel equally terrorized by those men. Maybe not terrorized with the imminent threat of sexual assault, but terrorized in the sense of, why are these guys somehow plugged in to some sort of weird aggressive thing that I'm not plugged into, and that I need to worry about? Do I need to be plugged into that, or do I need to be ready because one day in a bar something's going to go down? And of course that's why, guys like me, and I'm going to say us, watch movies where we're mostly seeing men who can deal in situations like that, who are not predators, but know how to deal with predators. Okay.
Chuck Connors and the Rifleman.
Okay. Yeah.
I watch that every morning. He knows how to deal with like assholes that come to town.
Bob,
I like Cullen. I watch it every morning, man. You motherfucker, listen to me. I love it. It's great.
Show knows how to deal with that. Cullen has made a study.
But does Chuck Connors equally know how to deal with being a werewolf? That's the real question. The answer is no, he doesn't.
So what we're seeing, so this movie is an event takes place. The event must be reacted to immediately. Okay. It can't be reacted to next week. It's not going to be like, well, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get our revenge through the court system. I know a lawyer. It's like, no,
the arrow is right in that scene.
Well, it's not the game. I mean, Burt Reynolds keeps talking about the game. This is a game. And all guys understand games. The game is now, and it ends at the bell. It's like, there's a time limit, and you got to make your move now. So that's what this is. So in a way, again, what Cullen was talking about, the fact that it is a compressed period of time, and we're not belaboring anything. We don't need to belabor it. We don't need to know. We don't need to see the guys at work. We know who these assholes are. We don't need to see the fucking Appalachian people either. We understand them. We got it. And now it's just a matter of how do you react to stuff, or how do men react to this stuff? And that's what it is. And the reaction has to be now.
Yeah, and you have the one real man in the group of Burt Reynolds' character, and the other three clearly looking up to him and trying to figure out how to do things the way he would do them. And I think the interesting thing is that, I mean, I was thinking as well that the whole thing really comes down to the idea of masculinity, even before the story starts, because you begin to wonder what set them down this path, what made them think that it was their manly duty that they had to go, break free from their boring city lives so that they could go traverse a horrifically dangerous piece of the environment before it was gone. They had no need to do it, other than the fact that they felt required to by some internal urge.
You're totally right. And the other thing that what you're saying reminds me of is at the end of the movie, I think it's Jon Voight who says, they're talking about Ronnie Cox's character, I didn't even know him.
Yeah.
So you start to think like these guys actually aren't even that close, at least in the movie. You don't realize until the end that's like they might not even know each other that well. They might just be like casual acquaintances. Even
though Ed says that he knew Drew the best. He's like, I knew him more than everybody else. And then at the end, he's like, but I didn't really know him. Like,
no, it was the Ned Beatty character that said he didn't know him that well.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. Because he knew Drew's family and everything. In the book, you even get a scene, like an extended segment of him going to Drew's wife at the end and her just getting pissed off.
The other
pissed
scene
off
that
what? Pissed off that they even did this trip?
Yeah, that her husband didn't come back. That, and Ed's wife says, you want me to stay here with you for a while? And she said, no, I want Ed to stay here. Or I want, not Ed, the Ronnie
Drew.
Cox character. Drew, there we
Drew.
go.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to bring up in relation to this talk about masculinity and, trying to do the manly thing, what I think is really interesting is, after, Burt Reynolds has shot the guy with the arrow and they're deciding what to do, they decide to bury the body. And it's almost when you see them like with their hands in the dirt, they seem really frightened. It doesn't seem like we're going to do a manly thing and stand up and we can take them. It's just like they're scared as shit.
They seem like feral animals.
Yeah, and then they don't even go that deep and they just put the bark and there's just like a lot of like fear and shame and uncertainty. So like, I don't know. I think that's interesting because it's coming after this moment of making a masculine decision. And then they're just kind of doing the exact opposite.
I like what you were bringing up, Josh. This sort of these rituals of manhood that men invent for themselves. I mean, it was very clearly not, this was by choice. This is, we're going to go in, we're going to do this thing, and then we're going to be home by Sunday afternoon to watch cheerleaders jumping around on the football field. We're just going to dip in and dip back out because this is how guys do things. but we're entitled and blah, 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 blah. Because guys do that. And this is also, I think this was more part of the male ethos, even in the previous century. This is why authors thought they all had to be Ernest Hemingway for most of the 1900s, because it's like, well, you're not allowed to write a novel until you've been in a war and worked on a ship and survived in the wild and fought a bull. Now you're allowed to write a novel.
And drink your weight in alcohol every day.
Drink your weight in alcohol.
Well,
you know what the modern day version of Deliverance is? The modern day movie that is about males going off and then doing unspeakable things. The Hangover.
Hey, Richard, my dude.
Whoa.
The Hangover is the modern man's Deliverance.
Yeah, pretty much.
And
that makes me want to rewatch the movie.
You should. At the end, they show the pictures of the horrible things that happen. I mean, it has to be comedic also, because the joke is the male bonding ritual of this era is not going camping. It's going to Vegas for the weekend.
Yeah. I mean, Bo Burnham said it best. When I was 30 years old, I was making birdhouse with my mom. When my grandfather was 30 years old, he was fighting in Vietnam. So, I mean, you know what I mean? Like that. I mean, it's that same thing where it's like, we have had a tonal shift in our culture where now generations are growing up that don't have to worry about going to war. I mean, unless they choose to. It's not a draft, lottery, shit like that, like it was during the Vietnam era. So it is kind of an interesting delineation if you think about it. Because yeah, I mean, I guess there are still guys who would go do this. I mean,
oh yeah.
Oof.
I grew up in Maine.
I was about to say, you probably know some of them.
Yeah, no, I didn't often get asked to go on camping trips. I think my friends growing up just knew even though I lived in Maine, I was not a country boy. This is why I moved to New York when I was 18. I like subways.
So what are the values of these male rituals? What is the value of these male rituals? Are they necessary? And what is this movie saying about them? Is it saying no, they're important, they're good, or is it saying, like, what is it? What are we left with?
Well, the thing I find most interesting about it is that once everyone feels like they have to take action, the biggest part of the job is dishonesty. It's lying. It's, let's bury the body. Let's never tell anyone about this. Let's never tell our wives. Let's just bury it deep down inside the way men are supposed to do and just be miserable until we fucking die.
That right there, I think, Josh, you have unlocked the movie with that statement of push it down, be miserable until you die. Because as a 31-year-old adult, growing up when I did, which I have the benefit of previous generations like yours, Richard, paving the path for us to be a more emotionally progressive society, I reject toxic masculinity whole cloth. Because again, I don't understand the point of it. It bums me out to think that there are men, and I know that there are because I'm friends with some of them, that are unable to express themselves emotionally. And that is because of the previous generations beating it into or out of them, however you want to look at it.
So what is a healthy transition experience in the life of a man that delivers him into a different kind of man, still a man, but not a toxic one? What society has it? What are those rituals?
What was yours, Richard?
Should be in the place. I didn't have one. I go to therapy.
Well, there it is.
We talk about,
but there it is.
Well, but it's not ideal. I should have gone through
it.
But how do you go through? I'll give you an example. Let me. Okay, you guys. Josh, do you have kids?
No.
Okay, I'm the only one with kids. Let me tell you something about an experience with my kids. So I'm in Pasadena, California, and kids go to a private school. And my 25-year-old on his first day of school, I go with him to drop him off, and they're playing Foursquare. Okay, he's a kindergartner, and there's a second grader who literally is like a foot taller than him and outweighs him by 80 pounds. It felt like. And they're playing Foursquare, and this big kid slams the ball down and points at my son and says, "You're out." And my son goes, no, the ball was in. It's actually you're out. And I'm like, you idiot. You do what the second grader tells you to do. He's going to kick your ass. And the second grader looked at my son and then nodded his head and goes, you're right, and went and sat down.
Dang.
That's the school he goes to. The school that my 3 boys went to, they do not teach competition. Your best is more than good enough. They teach conflict resolution. And now I drive around my youngest son with his 4 14-year-olds and for a half an hour, and no one is talking shit about anyone. No one is capping on anyone. No one is ragging on anyone. They're laughing. They're having the time of their lives. These are close friends, and there is zero shit talk. And I don't know what to make of it.
Can I go back to school? Because
I was about to say,
that sounds kind of lovely.
Put our fingers up and say, "Fuck yeah, dude!" Like,
sounds like it's time for a do-over.
I mean, I think for me, if we're gonna answer this question, because I'm curious, our answers. For me, mine was probably Scouts, which is about as cliched a fucking answer as possible. Is that yours too, Josh?
Well, Scouts is part of the evolution, because for me, Scouts was miserable.
Yes. Not only was Scouts miserable, I was bullied incessantly in Scouts and unable to quit because my parents wouldn't let me. Which feels kind of like abuse prison. Like, what did I do to you? Okay. Let me leave.
So that's not good. So that's not a good ritual for you.
Correct. Okay? And you know what the fucked up thing is, Richard? To your point, and you've said this before, I will repeat it here because people need to hear it. You do not need to be miserable at what you do because someone else makes you miserable. No, you don't need to be miserable because that's what someone else said. They were miserable too, so I'm going to make you miserable. That's not part of this equation.
I think men want to feel a sense of self-possession and a sense of strength and a sense of being capable. I think scouting can provide that for some, but is there another way to get that? I mean, I don't want to, sit here pounding on a drum around a campfire, but being a man is difficult. I know that being a woman is difficult, but I can't speak to that. So I'll just speak to being a man. It's difficult to know the safe, healthy way to go through those steps without going to war, fighting a bull, being on a tramp steamer, joining
being on a tramp steamer does sound like fun, though. I mean, you want to be on a tramp steamer? I don't know who doesn't. But you're right.
I like to think it has nothing to do with, you've got to learn how to be a dick to women. It's like, no, I don't think that's it. I think we were pretty clear on that. So what is it? Is it running a marathon? Is it, what is it? What do we do? Because I'm 54 and I haven't done it yet.
I think it's different for everybody. I mean, Josh and I have a shared experience, but I've only known Josh for 7 months, but I can probably, as Josh could probably, for me, you and I could probably guess at the things that happened to either one of us in Scouts, and our stories are probably very similar.
I assume that there were adults who did nothing or egged it on.
I think it was it was the first, not the latter. It was the adults standing around and not doing it.
It was certainly a lot more of them letting things happen, but when it's their kids, it feels like they're a little responsible for it too.
Yes, and it was often their kids.
Yes, always their kids in my case, and they get away with everything.
And I think that speaks to what you were talking about, Richard, which is accountability on the part of the people who are older and should know better, allowing and helping others to get to that point, which is why I mentioned, Richard, the thank you for your generation being socially progressive. Because without it, we'd be stuck with the baby boomers who are miserable and like everyone else being miserable because they are miserable.
I just thought of it. I thought of a current show that is a meditation on this and provides 2 paths. The show is called Cobra Kai.
I've been meaning to see that.
It's so great. It's fantastic. And it basically says, here are 2 adult men. They both grew up with 2 very different mentors. We saw them as kids. We saw that moment. And now we're seeing the path they took. And it's not like one is absolutely fantastic and the other is absolutely terrible, because that would not make an interesting show. There's gray areas. But you've got Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai, and it's like, who raised these guys? And what influence did they have? And how does that influence reverberate throughout their lives. The show's wildly entertaining, gripping, hilarious, well worth watching. Maybe that provides a partial answer.
I mean, I think a lot of this, and this is something, I think this is an important conversation which comes out of Deliverance, and I think Deliverance is a very interesting segue into this. I think that that we are at the very lowest point, or maybe a couple miles up the peak of this discussion about toxic masculinity, because this, I mean, as the four of us can attest to, this wasn't a conversation 15 years ago. This is a very contemporary social. I mean, toxic masculinity is not a phrase that was uttered any time before probably 2010. At least not in a mainstream way. At least not in a way that we all know what it means now. I think that we are echoes of our previous generations in many ways, good and bad. I think previous generations have a huge hand in shaping who we are positively and negatively. I'm sure we could all talk about our positive and negative traits we've gotten from people in our lives, be it parents or people that influenced us. But I think to your point, Richard, and I think to everyone's point, I think what or how you come to emotional maturity, because that's essentially what we're talking about here, is emotional maturity in a way. I think we all come to it differently, but I think we all come to it through the same avenue, which is finding a space or a gap in something that we were being told before that we saw was not the case, and it just kind of breaks everything. I mean, this fucking idea, and I'm sure we've all heard it, I've never cried. I've never seen my dad cry. Like, yo, I cried this afternoon, straight up. I'm not even joking. My wife and I were sitting on the couch, and Cullen will appreciate this. She showed me a video of our cat, Figaro, from August of last year when we got him. And I just broke down crying because, like, why not? I mean, like, why not? It made me emotional. That's what you do when you feel emotions, is you show
Here's
them.
the interesting thing. But here's the thing. It's okay. So follow that statement. It always goes like, well, men aren't comfortable showing their emotions, but they are, as long as the emotions are aggressive. Like there are all these guys who I never cried. They're showing a lot of emotion.
So this is
you know what I mean?
They're not positive. They're
violent.
not. Yeah.
Well, this is what
when you're screaming at your wife or the guy at the other end of the bar, that's a fucking emotion you're showing.
This is one of the things I find really fascinating about like mid-century like country music is there's a lot of fucking guys crying.
Yeah.
And I think, I shouldn't even say mid-century, I would just say like early 20th century through like, 60s and 70s. I think what's interesting is that there's this sort of persona of like the country man. And then when he gets behind a guitar and starts singing, Ernest Tubb's always singing about like children that have died. He has he didn't write it, but I can't remember who wrote it, but it's called What Kind of a God Do You Think You Are? And it's a guy just confronting God for like, why did you take my child away from me? And so many other George Jones songs are him just kind of crying, being like, oh man, I'm a piece of shit. I'm terrible. Like, I don't like drinking. I don't know. There's just bone dry is him like thinking like, oh man, can I even make it through a day without alcohol? And so, but I don't know. I think it's an interesting sort of alternate side to masculinity because it's country music is seen as it's the manly man's music. And
it got so homogenized into being about God and guns and trucks.
And it didn't used to be.
No.
There's a way to that's a way to access those emotions, and the blues were a way to access a kind of emotion.
Robert Johnson, man.
But think of what is, it's like the emotions that are, men shouldn't cry, but a woman crying, you don't blink. Men can be
but women aren't supposed to cry, Richard.
No, I'm talking
like if you're like a crying woman, like you're annoying to men and you shouldn't do it. That therein is also the problem, because now you can't have it. Men can't cry and women can't cry around men because men are annoyed by crying women.
Well, Richard, I see your point, and that's what I find interesting about it. That's what interests me about music, because that became a place where men could show those emotions and talk about those things.
Right. And if like in real life, if a man, displays, rage and try, violence because of a conflict of some sort, it's shrugged off in a way. But if women do it, that's like, what the fuck? Why is that woman? You know, so like it's like our society in general will accept certain displays of certain emotions from one sex and certain displays of certain emotions from the other, but not the other way around. But it's not because of the lack of those feelings.
There's
Women
literally, it's pathetic that
it's
pathetic that our society has devalued women's emotions so much. To what you're talking about, Richard, they've devalued women's emotions so much that the term histrionics, histrionics, a term no one should be using, by the way. If you hear someone use histrionics, tell them to knock that shit right the fuck off. Because that term has no need to be used in our society, because women and men should be able to show their emotions safely, and as long as they're not hurting themselves or others, there's no issue with people getting upset. People are allowed to be upset. But yeah, I mean, to your point, Richard, like women are allowed to show certain emotions, but don't get into your histrionics now, like, you know.
Or you'll have to get a hysterectomy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was thinking about this today, about how our culture really has just become this empatheticless fucking ball of just angry people constantly being angry at one another for a reason that I don't think anybody can pinpoint as to why they're angry. They're just angry.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's because people haven't been able to be emotionally honest since forever, I guess.
You either process or act on that feeling by continuing the cycle, by projecting outward and saying, I feel helpless, therefore I am going to blame and persecute these people and these people and these people and these people, or you approach it a different way and go, well, wait a second, rather than me, who feels at the bottom of society, turning to the other person who is also being treated poorly by the society, identifying them as the enemy and attacking them. Maybe there's another way to solve this problem that solves it for everyone.
My favorite way of solving it is having emotionally unavailable adults beating children because they can't be emotionally available with one another.
Right.
That is the best option.
But Chris,
especially if they're your own children.
Whatever you do, Chris, don't go to therapy, because that means you're crazy.
I know, right? You're fucking nuts because you are wanting to have some self-introspection about how your life has turned out.
What are you saying? I'm crazy? I need to go to. What, you're saying I'm crazy? Yeah. You're saying I'm crazy? I'll fucking kill you.
What? It is a shame, because a film like Deliverance, I think, is preaching the right message. At least it's pushing us in 72. Obviously in 2021, we're much farther down the path than we were in 72. But I think Deliverance does a good job of kind of helping get that message across. I mean, it's a message of, you know, masculinity in all forms can be dangerous. And especially when you're, you know, Lewis Medlock, Mr. Burt Reynolds with his open vest.
Great costume choice.
Oh my God, it was the greatest. Dude, okay, look, Burt Reynolds is a fucking good looking dude. He was until the day he passed. He has that charm, he has that charisma, and he also represents toxic masculinity in this film.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to go so far as to say that I don't think, I'm going to answer my question from earlier. The Appalachian people in this movie, I do not think are being treated as whole people. I think they're being used as a dramatic device. I think they're barely above the river. They exist purely to amplify the dramatic journey of the four guys. That's what they're there for. They're there to be rough landscape. Our characters are dragged over in their rock tumbler refinement of whatever this is going to do for them.
I would. You know, something I was thinking about, and Josh, I'd love to know if this is a bigger part of the book. The dinner table scene at the end, I think, is a really interesting like contrast to the sorts of characters that we met earlier. Granted, there are also women at the table and not men. Yeah, and I think there's a big difference. Because you see everybody at the table eating together. There's like, you know, they're accepting these outsiders to their table. Like, that's a pretty big gesture.
Breaking bread with them.
Yeah. And so like, I wonder if that was sort of an attempt to sort of like show that like, yes, there's the wilderness. The wilderness is people like, untethered. It's these raw emotions. It's like, it's kind of like negative. And then, even though that town is about to be obliterated into a dam, look, not everybody is like that. There is still warmth. There's family values. So I wonder if
the poor ones. The poor ones are the bad ones. These guys who live indoors and have a dining room table and a tablecloth and china, they're okay. So they're not all terrible. Just the toothless, malformed tar paper shack ones. Those are the bad ones.
Tar paper shack. That's a good one.
Yeah, it was funny mentioning the book really didn't go much further than that with the dinner stuff in particular. That section of the book dealt a lot more with just the paranoia of getting caught and having to there was a lot more discussion between the guys about getting their story straight and what lies they needed to tell. That was very much what that whole section of the book was. The major difference though is, the movie ends on just such a glum, depressing note, but the book had a moment, it goes on past that where, it has sort of a message of, past generations. Like the last line is literally about like wondering what the generation of kids coming might experience. But like the Ned Beatty character, he pretty much never talks to the guys again. And Lewis and Ed, they end up, moving away, but kind of being neighbors in the same basic area and staying friends. So there's a little bit more of a camaraderie between those two. But it doesn't quite feel as hopeless as the movie lets on. And I can't help but feel like what a deliberate choice that was, because, and going to the idea of what the rednecks represent, they, in kind of the research I did, from what I understand, the whole idea was more or less that they were just almost representatives of nature, recognizing that these guys were not supposed to be here and making them regret it. They were just a force. They were not really supposed to be any kind of human being.
They're like a Wendigo. I think it was like the Matrimonito.
Machi-Mantou, you mean? What's
the Manitou.
Yeah, the Manitou. You know what's funny though, and it's interesting. There is kind of a throwaway. It's not a throwaway line so much as I know why it's being used in the film, but I kind of wonder if it's let this asshole go by. So at the end of the film, Deputy Queen is the one whose brother-in-law is missing.
Yeah,
who's one of the guys who were part of the assault, right?
And that's the author playing the sheriff, isn't it?
At the very end, right?
Yeah.
Where he comes up to Jon Voight in the car. And
he's like, you guys need to get on out of here.
Yeah.
I find it interesting, though, because when he says that, it immediately humanizes someone who, like you mentioned, Josh, is a completely dehumanized character. Because this guy has family all of a sudden. This mountain man rapist who kills people, who was actively trying to kill Jon Voight about 20 minutes earlier. He has family, and it's like, yeah, of course he did.
Even then, though, the family goes, well, he's a drunk. He'll probably turn up.
Right.
He's got a reputation even within his own people.
Right.
But you're right about the dehumanization. They don't even know if it's the same guy. It's like Jon Voight kills him, lowers the body, does the whole thing, and then he's like, is this the guy?
Yeah.
It's like, well, you were there too. And he's like pulling on his teeth. It's like, I think it's the same. You know what? It's all the same. They're all the same.
Guy's dead either way.
Vietnam.
Right?
They all look alike. You know, I mean, it gets, they're hitting it pretty close.
Yeah.
They're hitting it pretty close.
This is a rough movie.
Yeah.
Right?
Still hits hard for me. Like Josh, I think you kind of hit it on the head earlier with saying it doesn't lose impact. This, I've seen this a dozen times and it still gives me chills. It's still, pretty harsh.
But I think we can agree it's a movie best watched when you're 9.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think I grew up okay.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, Cullen, a cautionary tale. Don't
Cullen,
go outside.
Yeah. Cullen, I saw Predator when I was like 7 or 8. So, I'm right there with you, man.
And how many times have you been to South America? I rest my case.
Yeah, how many times have I shook Carl Weathers' hand in a very forceful grasp? Never.
You son of a bitch.
Dylan. Yeah, and look, and here we are once again on another podcast bringing up a Arnold Schwarzenegger film.
Have you done a Schwarzenegger month? Have you thought about doing one?
Long ago. Which
Okay,
means
I gotta
it's ripe
go to
for
the
picking.
archives.
It's ripe for the picking.
Yeah,
We'll
he's
just
got-
watch
he's
End of
got
Days
plenty of
over
movies.
and over again and then Jingle All the Way.
I've seen Jingle All the Way. I have not seen End of Days.
I mean, End of Days is the kind of movie where he realizes he has to like go after Satan, so he just grabs a shotgun. Like, all right, Arnold, go for it, man.
I'm gonna kill me up a Satan with a shotgun. I'm getting him. Of course, that's not Arnold saying that. That's someone who sounds nothing like Arnold. We have the same idea.
I would read a book called "I'm Gonna Get Me a Satan with a Shotgun."
Yeah, I mean, I would too. Let's write it. Let's write a movie called "I'ma Get Me a Satan ... with a shotgun."
Punctuation's
It sounds like a
important.
Starring Mario Van Peebles.
Oh, dude, I love Mario Van Peebles.
I mean, yeah. Plus, I would watch that movie with Mario Van Peebles called "I'ma Get Me a Satan with a Shotgun." It's like Hobo with a shotgun, but less tact and less upside. I guess as we're coming to a close on this episode, I did kind of want to go back to something that Richard, you had talked a little bit about, something that I had brought up. I wish there was more Burt Reynolds in this movie. And I know that might be a point of contention. It might not be a contention, but it's a choice, obviously, given the way that the film is set up. But I did wish that there was more Burt Reynolds actively participating in them. Because once his femur is broken after the waterfall tumble, he's just kind of crying in the boat, which I did, find to be just... look, isn't that part of it? It's like, look at this guy who's so full of himself, and then he's screaming his lungs out as they're going down the rapids because it's jostling his femur that's broken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's hard not to always want a little more Burt Reynolds.
Yeah, right.
And, I think that's the thing, though. That's, the audiences agreed.
Right.
And within the next several years, they made damn sure that Burt Reynolds was headlining their movies.
Well, although I'm curious because we're going to watch a movie next week where he's one of 3 stars, I think. So I'm curious as to what the breakdown is in terms of Reynoldsness.
I mean,
Yes,
so
we'll see.
we can talk about that more. Next week, but this is like the first movie Liza made post Cabaret.
Okay,
So-
that's an answer. That's an answer.
I mean, I love the balance of the 3, but what I'm just looking up right now is Jon Voight's filmography, because Burt would have been mainly known for TV, and he had done some of the westerns in Italy. But Jon Voight would have done Midnight Cowboy, so he would have been the most recognizable presence in this movie.
Can we talk about the fact that I didn't even realize Ronnie Cox was in this movie until I watched it?
Because he was playing a nice guy. We're not used to that. Even though, from what I understand, this character's probably they're probably the closest to who he is in real life, because he is really a folk musician. That's what he likes doing.
Yeah.
So
Ronnie
this
Cox,
is really the only movie where he gets to do that.
friend of the Culture Cast, Ronnie Cox. We have spoken with him many moons ago for a little film called Captain America, which he
yes.
was in.
Oh, is that the? I kind of want to see that one because that's is it Albert Pune
It is.
who
Yep.
directed it. I'm very curious about that.
I mean, he was also Cohagen. I mean, come on. And he's also Dick Jones. I mean, holy shit, right? I mean, this is the guy that you have as your villain in the 80s if he's a corporate scumbag.
Or he's the head of the Beverly Hills Police Department and he works closely with Eddie Murphy.
Yes.
I have only seen that
doesn't
movie
trust
once.
him at
So.
The touching journey of how a Detroit cop teaches a whole precinct of honest policemen how to lie. That's the journey of that movie.
It's true. It's very
It's
true.
a great movie. It holds up totally. You should see it this week. And
Yeah,
you'll
I-
enjoy it.
I just rewatched it. It's still great.
Yeah.
And I will say, unfortunately, the unfortunate byproduct of existing on this earth as long as we have is Jon Voight has now gone out of his way to make everyone not like him. So it's unfortunate.
Yes.
As a fan of the multiple Baby Geniuses sequels, I take umbrage with that.
Or
I can't even
Anaconda.
say that with a straight face.
Or Anaconda. Yeah, that one too.
Oh, man.
I really want to rewatch Anaconda. I
With,
saw it when it came out.
with Jon Voight playing a character who's Bolivian? Is that what he
I
is,
don't
Josh?
remember.
Do you know what I'm talking about, right?
I have not. All the things I've seen, I only saw about half of Anaconda.
Oh, excuse me.
And that was when it was brand new.
He's a Paraguayan snake hunter. Sorry.
Sure he is.
And has a hilarious Paraguayan accent, which is not Paraguayan because I don't even know what Paraguayan is, but that's not what it is.
Yeah, I can't speak to that one. I have to go back. I have to go back and try to finally watch it. I'd rather watch the one with David Hasselhoff.
Wait, Anaconda?
Yeah, I think the third movie has David Hasselhoff.
Why am I not surprised? Why does it even matter? I mean, there's 5 fucking Anaconda movies. Did anyone here know that?
No, you should do a month where you do 2 through, you do all the other ones.
Oh, I've never done the first one. Do you want to know what the last one is? It's a crossover movie.
I know what the last one is.
Josh knows what it is.
I'll see if they can figure it out.
The last one is a crossover movie with another giant monster.
Anaconda
it's not even
versus
the name of the monster.
Something else.
It's not even the name of the monster. Christ almighty. Isn't it? I think the monster is from up in your neck of the woods, Cullen. Is that right, Josh? It's from upper northeast, right? Isn't that where the movie takes place?
Or is this like a Lake Placid Anaconda?
Yes, it sure is. It sure is Lake Placid versus Anaconda.
Yeah, literally Lake Placid versus Anaconda. The whole lake versus an anaconda, apparently.
Yes.
Yeah, I tried watching Lake Placid, and I don't think it wasn't the right time. I wasn't wanting something that schlocky.
That's another one with way more sequels than you would believe that it has.
Yeah. Not only
I'd give it another shot, but
not only is Lake Placid versus Anaconda the 5th Anaconda film, it's also the 5th fucking Lake Placid film. So, yikes.
That's great.
Yeah.
People got a lot of work. I hope they got paid decently.
I mean, I know they got paid. I don't know if decently is. I have no idea. I mean, I can't believe. Honestly, sitting here, I'm surprised that there are 6 Lake Placid movies.
Tell you what, I would be more. The longer the series goes on, the more I would want to watch them. Like, I bet I would really enjoy 5 more than 2.
Yeah, like Mothman Prophecies 3. Book of Moths.
the Mothening.
Oh no, the Mothman Prophecies 3, Electric Mothaloo. There you go.
Why not?
I know, really. Why not, Richard?
I was always hoping they'd make Under Siege 3 and 4 and then sell them in those packs.
Ooh.
Like somehow this would, like spur my residuals to an even higher level. Never happened.
Oh my god!
I mean, anything to get Eric Bogosian some more money, but
just talk to Arrow and see if you can get like a nice Blu-ray box set.
Or Kino. Just ask Kino. They'll do anything. Apparently, they'll release Kolchak again. I mean, come on.
And you got a commentary on that.
I know, right?
I'm buying it. I got to hear your commentary.
I'm buying it too because I also have to hear my commentary, even though I've recorded it. Oh my god!
I do actually think it's funny that the movie never addresses the title. It's one of the first things that happens in the book where they explicitly explain that it's these city boys wanting deliverance from their daily lives, and the movie never spells it out for you, and I think that's kind of beautiful.
Huh?
I like that.
I didn't even think that. I didn't even put that one and one together.
I like that.
It's great.
My Amazon Prime, it defines it slightly differently in their synopsis of the movie. They explain that 4 men go into the wilderness, but only 3 are delivered out.
That's also true.
Is that real? Is that actually what it says on Amazon?
That's what it says. Amazon Prime, when I ordered the movie, that was that was in their description of what the movie is. Their little 2-sentence.
And then at the end it said, 3 men are delivered out. And if you live in one of these locations, it's same-day shipping. That's how they were delivered. But I'll be here all week. Don't forget to tip your waitress. I'll be in the Catskills later this month.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you're coming to New York.
Yeah, I'll be running the what was it called? Like the matzo ball circuit or something. I forget what it is.
The Borscht Belt?
The Borscht Belt, that's what it is. With oh god, what's his name? Ish Kabibble. That's who it is. There
is a book series that should really be made into some sort of series, movie, TV, streaming, by Reed Farrell Coleman about Mo Prager, who's a Coney Island ex-cop who's now a private eye. And one of maybe the second or third book involves going into like the Catskills, to one of those areas for a crime that a building that had burned down decades ago, but the mystery's never been solved. But
that sounds amazing.
He's a fabulous writer. He's now doing one of the Robert B. Parker series. He's sort of the estate's hired him to continue it.
Yeah. He does the Jesse Snow novels. Yes, you're right. I'm like, well, I know that name, but yeah.
Yeah, I haven't read those yet. I think he also might have co-written a book with Michael Mann.
The Michael Mann?
I think so. I will look this up. But Reed is a fantastic writer. Highly recommend his books. Okay, so it just says in 2017, Mann teamed up with four-time Edgar-nominated author Reed Farrell Coleman to write a Heat prequel novel.
Interesting.
Because it has not come out yet.
Oh, that's great. Okay, that explains why I haven't heard about it.
But yeah, Reed is the man. So great writer.
And hey, who does? And you know what? We need to give the Catskills more love, especially the Borscht Belt pals and Ishkabibble. I mean, come on, who doesn't love the name Ishkabibble? I know I do.
It's a great name.
It's a great name. So Richard, I love doing this. Do you skip it or watch it, Richard?
Watch it. Come on,
Josh.
If you're 9, watch it. If you're not 9,
if you're 9,
you should probably still watch it. I actually did have a couple of other things I was going to mention.
Go for it.
Just because, like, if you look into the production of the movie, every big name in Hollywood was up for the part, and the studio didn't want to pay for anybody. Like, we could have had like Jack Nicholson. They were talking about Lee Marvin once for the Jon Voight character, which would have made no sense because he's way too tough for that. But
boy, like, those stories from set would have been fucking wild.
Yeah. They were anyway.
Yeah.
But Sam Peckinpah almost got it, and he lost it, and it ended up with him making Straw Dogs, which is a very similar movie. I feel.
Yeah.
I feel like thematically there's so much going on almost the same level. So that's kind of funny. But I think it's funnier that like John Boorman made this unbelievable movie. And the only way you could possibly knock down a career that promising is if back-to-back you make Zardoz and Exorcist 2. And like, I like Zardoz and I think Exorcist 2 is fascinating, but the world was not ready for those.
The gun is good. The penis
is evil.
Evil. I always say bad for whatever reason, but evil's a much better line.
Yeah, but like, he just... I'd love to know the story of where that man said, I have this one, like, and it's such a bare movie. It's such a, pared down. There's barely any music. There's barely anything going on besides the intensity of Deliverance. And from there, he just went nuts with themes and ideas. And I kind of love that he took that freedom, even if it may have hurt him in the long run.
And who doesn't love Excalibur?
Excalibur is
I
fun.
haven't seen it.
Wait, you don't like it, Richard? Huh.
I remember being bored.
Fucking Richard. I remember being bored. When did
we're not getting his laughter because he's on mute.
I know. Where's the laughter, man?
You have a very lovely laugh, Richard.
I saw a lot of movies in the early 80s.
Wait, so have you seen it recently?
No.
Oh,
I saw
man.
It twice. Look, because every idiot I was friends with was like, oh, King Arthur. Oh, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. Who gives a rat's ass? They dragged my ass to see Excalibur more than once. I mean, I saw it, and then I saw it again at the Rialto probably a year later on a double bill with Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Oh, wow.
Well.
Bored once, I'm bored twice.
Hell of a poster, though.
Yeah, I like Excalibur for how, like, again, I think Excalibur is a movie that I find to be technically impressive, but, like, as a movie, maybe not so much. But, like, handcrafted armor and all that, it's just, like, all that shit. And, like, shot on location and all, I mean, that's impressive. Yeah, I know.
And it's easier to appreciate now with the way things are done currently.
Right.
Looking back, like, it makes it more special than it probably felt at the
Get
time.
out of here, Richard, with your making noises about practical effects. Come on, man.
I'm gonna watch Excalibur.
You should. It is a fun movie. It may not be a good movie, but it's a fun one.
I was at the Met yesterday and looking at all the knight's armor, and I was just like, fuck, I want to watch some movies with this stuff in it because it just looks rad.
You should watch Excalibur, and then you should go on YouTube and watch Adam Savage, one half of the dudes from Mythbusters, he goes to the guy who made the armor for the film, and he has him make a screen accurate version of the armor that King Arthur wears, and you get to see the entire process, and it's so fucking cool that I'm plugging it here because I watched it a bunch of times, some high, some not. It's entertaining either way. And it's just, again, if you're into like figuring out how armor is made, or if that's something that's interesting to you, like definitely check it out. It's cool. I mean, making armor it's mind blowing to me. How you like shrink the metal essentially. Look at Richard. He's just like, can I get the fuck out of here, please?
Sounds like too much work.
I know. Well,
who cares?
Yeah. I have a pen and paper. You have a hammer and a fucking anvil, you dick. Yeah, Daddy's empty.
Daddy's empty, baby.
Same.
All right, so oh my God, Richard, why don't you just bring a bottle with you next time so you can fill your shit back up, man? I mean, Cullen has a can, I get it, but Richard,
I normally have like 3 cans.
Yeah, you could make cocktails in a pitcher, Richard, and just pour them into your glass.
That's believe me, that's down the road for me, I'm sure.
I'll make you some cocktails and I'll send them to you. How's that?
I try to like delay, like I have my first one, have the second one a little later. If suddenly I'm having 2 before 6 o'clock, then what do I do at 9? Drink
some more.
A man has got to know his limitations. Dirty Harry, 1971.
Second time that's been quoted in a week.
I was gonna say, Richard, if you start pouring cocktails, can you please put the mic up so we can get the audio of the?
Ooh.
Oh, the audio of first the ice from the ice maker crashing into the metal cocktail shaker, then the booze going in, then the shaking, which my family loves.
That's their favorite thing, I bet.
Daddy's alcohol alarm. Oh, they love it. They got to pause the show they're watching as I shake for a full 15 seconds, as bartenders union requires, and then pour into the glass and then empty the ice loudly into the bar sink. Everyone loves the soundtrack to Daddy's Drink.
And then 30 minutes later, hey, can we order this? Oh, yeah, totally. Just put it on my Amazon account.
There you go. They get it. They know what's up.
But if you guys, I'll do it for you guys. For you guys who will appreciate it, I'll do it.
Oh, there
it is. Of course I will.
Yeah. We love you, Richard.
We do.
Thank God. You guys understand.
Okay. I think you need this more often, maybe. We'll say it every time.
Josh is silent, but he hasn't known.
Well, I mean, I don't know you well enough, but however, this is a fantastic first experience. So,
yeah. So, Josh,
please continue further. I can drop the L word down the line.
Josh and I we're getting there.
You're vibing, there. Bro. You're vibing.
I'm having feelings. Josh is too. We'll get there.
So Josh, would you skip it or watch it?
No, I think it's a pretty important movie.
Yeah,
I would definitely watch it, even with the rough stuff in it. I think this is one of those cases where society has given you enough of a heads up to know what to expect.
Yeah, not only a heads up, but also a head start in a way. Because I mean, like, I guess realistically, it's I'm gonna add Cullen. I'll say my piece at the end. Cullen, skip it or watch it.
Oh, hard watch. It's a great movie. It's iconic. Holds up extremely well.
Yeah, I agree. I would say watch it, and I will also say one other piece, because we need to circle back to this jokey shit. I think we as a culture have done this film a massive disservice by making it, just making it about ha, guy gets butt fucked. Like, that's not funny, and it's not played for laughs in the movie. But our culture has turned it into a you got a pretty mouth, squeal like a piggy, yada yada yada. And like, I get it. I made the joke to Richard at the beginning of the podcast, but that's also because we're talking about the fucking movie right now. And let's just get it out of the way so that no one else makes it for the rest of the goddamn podcast. I think that there's so much, and Josh, you've talked about it. Cullen, you talked about it. Richard, you talked about it. There's so much going on in this movie that it just being known as the movie where the guy squeals like a pig is pretty unfortunate. That's as much as a lot of people will ever know about what this movie is, because it's like 3 minutes of an hour and a half movie, and it doesn't define this movie. It's part of the film's tapestry that it weaves, but it's not it doesn't define the movie. And it's
Well,
unfortunate.
not only that, but God, and I'm sorry, I hate to dive back in, but also whenever a person from like a lower class or who is somehow unfortunate enough from, you know, the genetic roll of the dice or whatever it is, and whenever that person comes on screen, someone goes, and it's sort of like that's become sort of the soundtrack for malformed, stupid, poor, backwoods, whatever. And yet in the movie, it's the most joyful part of the movie.
Yeah.
It is.
Shot.
I could play music with that kid all night long.
I hope he would shake your hand, though.
It's a moment of connection through music, and even though it ends on sort of a, you know, bittersweet, somewhat ominous note, it's a moment of connection. While it's taking place, it's a joyful moment, and it gives you hope that the movie might progress down a different tributary in the river.
Yeah, because you know who didn't deserve to eat shit? Ronnie Cox.
Mm-hmm.
And I assume one last thing, Josh, I wanted to clear up because it's kind of I mean, it's not it's I guess ambiguous in the movie. I don't know. Is it ambiguous? I guess in the movie it is. I'm assuming, Josh, in the book it's less ambiguous that Ronnie Cox's character does get shot.
I believe that was the main reason. Yeah, because they knew that if somebody found the body, they'd find the bullet hole, and it would all be traced back to the whole situation. So they had to just dispose of any evidence by any means possible.
But in the movie, it's not clear that he got shot.
Yeah, in watching it right after finishing the book, I was like, wait a minute, why are they doing it this way?
He's just like
kind of fucked up.
Falls out of the boat, and they're like, what?
And I love that, like, and the man is like actually double jointed, so he just he really bent his arm over like that to get all contorted, just to make it look even worse.
Oof. Hey, I mean, the real MVP of this movie is Bill McKinney, who is in the most unfucking comfortable position a human being should be in for God knows how long with that thing on his face. I was sitting there, I was like, how is this guy sitting there for this long? Holy shit. Like,
yeah.
Good for you, dude. That is some method acting. Like, God knows how long he sat there with his face wedged in that tree branch, just as Burt Reynolds is just pontificating, and he's just like, can we get this scene over with? Because I'm in pain. Like, this is not good. Oh, boy. Well, let's take a break. I'll play a preview for the last Culture Cast of Burt Reynolds Month.
This is the year 20th Century Fox is bringing back Prohibition.
Oh, whoopee!
Gene Hackman, Liza Minnelli, and Burt Reynolds as Kibby, Walker, and Claire.
Well, ain't we all the aces?
A spunky dame.
Watch it, Buster!
A snazzy dude.
And you're dancing with the slickest guy in the joint.
And a tough customer.
You just step a little closer to the microphone. I didn't catch what you were saying.
Who had some high times running rum aboard the Lucky Lady.
These men offered your captain a bribe. You know what to do. You shoot them both on my command.
You can't get away with that. I wouldn't make him mad.
Fire, damn it! You missed it, Totterhead! Adios, Mugly! Adios!
They didn't exactly hit it off at the start.
Who's here, date?
What do you think of that?
Maybe it'll keep the woodpeckers off.
Hi, you missed it, I say!
But pretty soon, everything was Jake.
Would you rather sleep down here tonight?
You and him down there fooling around. She was getting lonely. She never gets lonely because she's got me.
I'm a sucker for a pretty face.
The rum was running.
Boy, is he going to be peeved when he finds out we took the booze, huh? It's prime stuff.
And the dough was flowing.
I just want to spend as much time being rich as I did being poor.
Hollywood trash.
They were on their way to Easy Street.
We look very high-toned. Can't tell us from the real people.
They had some close shaves.
They're moving off fast. Well, that don't mean they're coming after us. Go for the gas drum on the deck. What? The gas drum on the deck!
And a few bad scrapes.
I think we're losing them.
Every man for himself. Ladies first.
But through it all, they had each other.
Holy cow, and wow, she on the back. Tired to see where you've been. Let's have a splash. Pour out the cash. Gloriousky, hallelujah.
Gene Hackman, Liza Minnelli, and Burt Reynolds in Stanley Donen's Lucky Lady.
So on the last Culture Cast of Burt Reynolds Month, we're going to be talking about a film that is very near and dear to Mr. Cullen Gallager's heart. We're going to be talking about Lucky Lady. Are you excited, Cullen? I'm excited.
I am. I really hope that y'all like it, because it always makes me nervous picking movies, especially ones that I really like. And I love this movie. It makes me happy. I'm looking at the poster of it now.
Oh, you have a poster of it in your house?
Yeah, it's right over the TV.
Oh, shit. You have set the expectations very high.
Well, that's what I don't want to do.
No. You have set the expectations high for me that I give a good conversation next week, because I don't want to disappoint you, because you love that movie.
I don't know. Yeah, it's underrated movie, but I hope you all can find something to enjoy in it.
Yeah, well, this better be great.
I won't even be here, and I might watch it anyway. Because
I've never even seen it.
I mean, I love me some Liza. I'm a Broadway nut. I love me some Burt. I love some Gene. I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, there you go.
Boy, I love all those three people. How bad if the movie I hate.
Oh my God.
I really hope you don't.
Richard, get out of here.
I really hope you don't.
Cullen, I will say though that when Lucky Lady lands with me and Cullen, or Ray, you would already land with Richard and I and our guest for next week, Jess Byard.
Oh wow, that'll be fun.
Yeah. I am looking forward to it landing with me so that we can have a great conversation. So, and you'll be 8 for 8, I think, for this year.
That's a lot.
That is a lot.
You've asked. Thank you. It's been a pleasure and a privilege.
Yeah. And it'll be 4 for 4 for Richard, I guess, because you help with this month. So obviously, I mean, it was you and Cullen that really were talking about Burt Reynolds a lot and like driving that conversation. So,
well, I probably focused it down because, like, Cullen could probably make a compelling argument for 10 more Burt Reynolds films.
Yes.
So I was the one who was sort of like, no, I want to watch this one. Yeah, we got to do that one. I kind of,
And given that you had never seen Deliverance and neither had I, we should probably watch fucking Deliverance, Yeah.
I saw an opportunity and I'm like, great. I've seen Smokey a bunch of times. I'm happy to see it again. Never seen Sharky, never seen Deliverance, never seen Lucky Lady. Time to fill in some Burt Reynolds blanks.
Yeah, there you go. So until then, Josh, if people are looking for you on the internet, not in person, but I guess in person possibly, where could people find you if they wanted to?
Yeah, I don't really have much of a home base other than social media. Just, my name, Josh Stewart, purple hair, you'll see me. I'm all over. Most of my recognizable work lately is on Letterboxd, which I use as much as a personal diary related to the movies I watch, as much as I do, actually reviewing the movies. And I think that's just under my name. Yeah, it's just under my name, Josh Stewart. I also have Twitter under Bracky Wacky. That's BRAKYWAKI, but I don't use it a whole lot. But I could be. It changes whenever I'm on these shows. Then I have to share the stuff around, and maybe I'll get active again. It's time.
I don't blame you for not wanting to be on Twitter, though, given that it's essentially a trash can constantly on fire. So,
I mean, I found some pretty good back roads on there, but interaction is a lot less necessary than it used to be.
Yeah, boy, isn't that the truth? What about you, Mr. Gallager? Where can people find you if they were to look?
Currently, I'm on Josh's Letterboxd and Facebook accounts, friending him.
Wow.
You are a very, very, very lovely fellow. It's a pleasure chatting with you and meeting you.
Mike White, bringing people together through the magic of podcasting.
That's what he does.
You know how many times Mike gets like fucking call outs on this podcast? All the time. You know why? Because Mike's fucking cool, guys.
He's the man.
He is the man. Yes,
yeah,
Richard. Yes, Richard.
So as I said last week, I am still behind on my work. So even though I do have a blog, pulp-serenade.com, have not been there in a while. I'm trying to finish up some albums so then I can actually plug where they would be online, but they're not finished. So yeah, I got work I got to do. I'm a lazy bum.
Well, one is you're being paid for and one is your passion. What the fuck?
What do you mean? What am I being paid for?
Oh, that's fair. Wait, the check not get there?
No, I haven't got a check in a very long time for anything.
Cullen, are you watching Richard performing like pretty easy sleight of hand. Do that shit again, because even I can't. I can't do that shit, Richard. Come on.
Whoa!
You sell it really well, Richard.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's
see,
really good,
that.
man.
That is real. I can't do that.
Do you know any other tricks?
It's still
it
my
worked
hand.
for my children when they were young. So
do you know any other tricks
for me?
Richard?
Later, guys, can't do it all today.
Oh,
okay.
On the audio only podcast, I'll save some of my magic tricks for the next one.
So for anyone that couldn't see that, which is everyone else other than us, Richard took a chapstick and shoved it up his nose and managed to pull it out of his mouth.
And let's not kid ourselves. For Richard Hatem, a chapstick is on point, on brand. One might even say. Chapstick brand chapstick, brought to you by Richard Hatem. Speaking about Richard Hatem.
By the way, does chapstick send me chapstick? Fuck no.
Did they send you chapstick after the movie?
No one has sent me a goddamn thing. We got to start talking about our favorite scotch on every podcast if we expect to get anything. No one has ever sent me any. Other TV writers are like, oh, on our, hey, we're the, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. writers room, and we're always tweeting about our favorite vodka that we drink in the writers room. They just sent us a case.
A case?
Okay.
Holy fuck.
Let's aim low. Let's make this the official podcast of MD 2020.
I was going to say, let's make this the official podcast of Kid Cuisine, the best frozen meals.
Whatever we think we can get for free.
Exactly.
Whatever you want free of, we'll talk about how it's what sustains us through those late nights of podcasting.
I am going
we're
to
all obsessed with it.
I'm going to make a point now to reach out to Kid Cuisine and be like, you guys looking to sponsor podcasts? Because we're huge fans of that corn that you guys have in those trays. I mean, when it mixes with the brownie, it's just, c'est magnifique, if you know what I mean. Ooh, and then you get the warm pudding.
And that brownie that gets all stuck to the tray.
Dude, you're speaking and those fucking nuggets that are shaped like dinosaurs and shit. Man.
Oh, I like dinosaurs.
Wait, the nuggets or the animals?
I mean, the animal, but I like things shaped like dinosaurs.
Who the hell don't? I mean, that's why you can buy those bags at Costco for like 50-pound dinosaur nugget bags.
I like chicken shaped like dinosaurs. I like actual dinosaurs inhabiting their actual shape. I love it.
But do you like chickens that look like dinosaurs?
Yeah,
which are just chickens.
Chicken nugget dinosaurs.
They are dinosaurs.
Yeah.
That's very strange if you think about it. Holy shit. God, I'm not gonna be able to unthink that for a while. Chicken nuggets shaped like dinosaurs is strange, and is it irony? It's a strange irony. Because you know that if dinosaurs existed, we would just be eating them for food. Right?
Imagine the hunting them for sport would be unbelievably terrifying.
And my hope would be that if they were being hunted for sport, the kind of people who hunt animals for sport now would have a lot less of a success rate if they went out to hunt those animals.
I don't think the T-Rexes or the Raptors would take any of their bullshit.
No, Bob went hunting out at Jurassic Park and he didn't come back. Good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Chris. Where can you find me? Well, let me tell you. You can find me on Twitter at Richard Hatem. By the way, I never give out my Twitter handle, but you can find me at Richard Hatem. And if anyone is listening to this, if anyone can hear me, like a message in a bottle, I want you to follow me on Twitter, and then I want you to tell me you're following me because you heard me on this show. We'll toss that out there. See what happens.
Well, I'm going to be first in line because I'm now there.
Whoa, you can't. Yeah, like you had to put a little bit of terms and conditions on that one, Richard.
Well, that's one. Hey,
that's one. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
And you can also find me on HBO Max's Titans. I'm a writer, executive producer, and season 3 starts on August 12th with our first 3 episodes. We drop them all in one night, and then 1 episode every week after that. Catch up on seasons 1 and 2 on HBO Max or on TBS.
And as for me, you can find me on the internet at cstashu.com. That is my link tree. That sends you to a podcast that Richard and I do together where we talk about, I would say holiday specials by Rankin and Bass, but that is definitely not the case because we just talked about Lord of the fucking Rings, and that has nothing to do with Christmas unless you consider it a man with a long white beard. cstashu.com is where you can find me. As for this podcast, culturecast.com, culturecast on Twitter, patreon.com/culturecast is where you can go. If you want to give me $1, cool. If not, dude, I get it. Shit's fucked. I get it. Shit's fucked, guys. What do you want me to say?
I mean, that's the perfect, closer to Deliverance. Shit's fucked, guys.
Shit's fucked, guys. But yeah, so that's where you can find me. That's where you can find the podcast. That's where you can find these lovely folks. And as always, big thanks to y'all for joining me. And we'll catch you.
Anytime.
Yeah, and see, Josh, this is fun, right?
This is so much fun.
I know.
Yeah. It was way more fun than launching my car into the fucking into a ditch the other week.
No.
Well, to be fair,
glad you're okay.
What is less fun than that? I mean, almost nothing. Jesus Christ. He brings a whole new term.
I'm glad that fun is coming back into my life. That's what I'm saying.
Right. And make sure to catch us on the next episode.